This is part of the public outrage that followed a CTV telecast in the fall of 1979, a W5 item charging that Canadian universities are overcrowded with foreign students, particularly with Chinese students. The program was so insulting, its facts so distorted, and its assumptions so racist that protests immediately came from ethnic groups, universities, and governments. Leading the protest was Toronto's Chinese community.
You're doing what every other minority group has had to do, whether it was Irish, or whether it was the Jews, or whether it was the Indians, or the blacks, or any other group has had to do. That is, to face the fact that in this society, there's a great deal of bigotry.
For whatever affects the Chinese Canadians, like it or not, it affects all of us. My fervent prayer and demand is that the CTV network will get their heads out of the sand and realize that Canada was built by many people, and the reality of Canada is a nation of many peoples, and that they will retract and will not make any further false propaganda, racist programs such as the campus giveaway.
I'm Stephen Lewis, and I am part of this protest because I agree. Racism is dangerous, not only to the community it attacks, but to all communities. I would like to show you what happens when television journalism lapses into irresponsible journalism. On September 30th, 1979, the CTV program W5 aired an item called Campus Giveaway. This is how it began.
Here is a scenario that would make a great many people in this country angry and resentful. Suppose your son or daughter wanted to be an engineer or a doctor or a pharmacist. Suppose he had high marks in high school and that you could pay the tuition, but he still couldn't get into university in his chosen course because a foreign student was taking his place. Well, that is exactly what is happening in this country, but hardly anyone wants to talk about it.
That is exactly what is not happening in this country. What has made a great many people angry and resentful was the racism that ran through this whole W5 item. To begin with, international students are not taking places from Canadian students. This is clear in reports published by Statistics Canada, in studies done by Canadian universities, and in a comprehensive up-to-date report released by the Canadian Bureau for International Education. Yet with all this information available, W5 went on to say this.
It's not hard to understand why the public hasn't been given a chance to debate the foreign student problem. The statistics that show it is a problem aren't easy to find. Here are some. At least 100,000 foreign students in our schools.
That is simply not true. There are not 100,000 foreign students in our schools, but approximately half that number. The most recent figures show 55,000 students in Canada on student visas at all levels of education. And in Canadian universities, which is where this W5 item focused its attention, the number of full-time students visiting Canada from other nations is only 20,000, 5% of the students on our campuses. W5 has already admitted that its figures were wrong, but those false statistics have now gone out to viewers all across the country. That's bad enough, but what followed was even worse, when W5 went on to tell this story.
Barbara Allen has been working on and off in her father's St. Catharines, Ontario pharmacy since she was 12. She graduated from high school with 79.5%. Good marks, but not high enough to get into pharmacy at the University of Toronto. When Barbara saw the pharmacy class, she couldn't believe it.
The viewer was led to believe that the Chinese faces in this class belonged to foreign students. Every student pictured here is a Canadian. Most of them were born in Canada. Some immigrated to Canada and took up Canadian citizenship. But W5, like Barbara Allen, equated Chinese with foreign. Deliberate or not, that's dangerous and wrong. The idea that if you're not white, you're not Canadian, or in some way you're less Canadian, is racist, divisive, and deplorable. Now, W5 maintained that Barbara Allen was kept out of pharmacy by an influx of foreign students. The fact is, there is not a single foreign student in the entire undergraduate pharmacy course at the University of Toronto. Only Ontario residents are admitted to the course. Barbara Allen wasn't kept out by the competition of students here on student visas. Her high school average was good, but not good enough to get into pharmacy. And yet, what did we hear next?
All these people are in, and you're knocked out of a seat. You're not getting the education that you feel you should be, because it's just, the classes are just packed with foreign students.
When a student can't tell the difference between a new Canadian and a visitor from another country, it's a sad state of affairs, but at least it's understandable. When a national television program makes the same mistake, it's inexcusable, whether it's sloppy research or deliberate misrepresentation. The item then went on to exploit the misconceptions of those involved.
Robert Allen is hardly a racist. He's an understandably upset parent and concerned taxpayer.
I see that the government is giving grants of millions and millions of dollars to universities, which is fine. But I feel that our own people should have preference over the use of those tax dollars rather than other people.
Other people, our own people. Barbara Allen's father pays taxes to support Canadian education. So do the parents of every student in the pharmacy class at U of T, because every student there is a Canadian, regardless of race. That Mr. Allen may not have realized, but W5 should have known the truth, and what's more important, W5 should have telecast the truth.
Barb Allen is not a racist. It's the policy she's fighting, not the participants. And she isn't alone. A university admissions officer says privately that Canada is being suckered as a nation by countries which won't pay for education themselves.
All right, what is Canada's policy on students from other countries, visa students? And how does that policy affect Canadian students? To begin with, nearly all of the 20,000 visa students who are on Canadian campuses are in courses that already